My name is Steven Scafidi, and today I'm going to be talking about functional JavaScript. Functional JavaScript is a way to program JavaScript in a functional manner. Functional patterns tend to use more functions. They tend to be a little bit more declarative, and they've really become popular in recent years, and they can be used for a wide variety of use cases. They also tend to have some benefits, like they're easier to test, and when you do get bugs, they're easier to debug. So we're going to start off with a couple of very simple examples, and we're going to create some utility methods that are really essential to developing functional JavaScript further. The utility methods here are going to be applied to, again, a simple example, but they can really be applied to a large variety of use cases, and they're essential to any functional program. So we're going to start off with a simple, and here I'm using VS Code, and I'm using Quokka. Quokka is a simple, editor for VS Code that kind of works the same way as CodePen. It's just like in your editor, so it's like nice and easy to set up and stuff. So anyway, let's start off with a simple array, and it's just going to be an array of string values. Actually, I want to start off with something not 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a simple array, and what we want to do to this array is get an array of integers instead of strings. So we can do that easily by doing array.map. Your string is your first value, and then you want to parse int your string. So, and if you console.log this, you'll see that we have 4, 2, 3, which is the correct answer. So this is a simple way of doing this. Map accepts a callback. Map has 3 arguments. The first one is the element, the second one is the index, and the third one is the original array. So here we're only using one argument, the string itself, which is the element, and we're going to run some function on it using this callback. So we want to get to a place where it's much more declarative, what we're doing. So eventually we want to get into something that looks like this. And this isn't going to work, but I'll explain why in a second. So if you console.log this, you'll see that we get 4, not a number, not a number. So this isn't going to work, but it is going to give us like what we eventually want. So we want eventually this. So first, let's see why this didn't work. So like I said, map takes in 3 parameters. ParseInt actually takes in 2 arguments. The first argument is the number itself, as we saw up here, and this, or the string or element, whatever it is. And the second argument is the basis. It's also called a radix. Radix and basis are synonymous in math. So they tell you what base you want. It's defaulted to base 10, although it's not good. It's not considered good practice to just assume that it is base 10. So that's what our second utility function is going to be used for. But first, we're going to get through the first one. So we want to both explicitly define the basis, and we want to make sure that this works. So because parseInt accepts 2 arguments, the second argument of map is being passed into parseInt. So let's look at what that looks like. So let's look, for example, at the 2. The 2, it's actually logging this parse int 2, 1, or I'm sorry, 2, 1. So it takes the second element out of our array, and then the 1 stands for the index that it's on because the index starts at 0. So, and you can see it's not a number. So this is like what this is currently doing, which isn't working. So we need to get something that works. So we'll label this as not working. So what we want is, let's just try to get this. So we want parse int to just take in 1 argument instead of 2. Well, this comes down to the most basic higher order function in functional programming. It's called an unary. Unary stands for 1. Parse int is a binary function. You can actually check the length. All functions have lengths, and they point to, get rid of this real quick. You see the length on parse int is 2 because it takes in 2 arguments. The length of a function is also known as the arity. Arity is how many arguments a function has. So for parse int, it's known as a binary function because it takes in 2 arguments. We want to make an unary function. So we're going to create a unary function. It's going to take in a function and return function. And we can name this an anonymous function. However, it is good practice to always name your functions, because if you have a bug and you're looking at the stack trace of that bug, it may not be obvious where the function is if it's not named. So we're going to call this use1var, and we're going to call this arg, and we're going to return the function with arg. So look at what this is doing. This is taking the function, grabbing 1 argument out of it, and applying that function with 1 argument. So remember I said map has 3 arguments. Well, now we're going to take the map function and actually turn it into a function that just passes 1 argument into our destination function, into the function that the unary takes in. So let's look at this and see. Unary parse int. So if we console.log this, you'll notice that now we get the correct answer, 423. So we've automatically eliminated the error that we were seeing before. And this looks a lot more declarative than our above solution. You can see that both of them give you a correct solution, both the second line and line 13. However, this looks a lot more declarative, and once you get used to functional programming, it becomes a lot easier to read. So how can we now pass in the basis? And actually, first I want to go over, why does this work? So let's look at like what this unary function is returning. It's returning a function. So let's substitute that in. Let's substitute like those things in and make it much more explicit. So it's arg.map, and we're going to copy what the body of the function looks like, and we're going to substitute. We don't want that return. We're going to substitute function for parse int. And you'll notice that this gives us the exact same results. This gives us 423, which is the exact arguments, but now it's a lot more verbose, right? I mean, you can see that use1var is in there, parse int is in there. So it's a lot more verbose in terms of what's happening. I am going to make this into 2 videos because my video recording software cuts me off, but we'll be back and we'll discuss the second utility function that's going to allow us to set that basis in there.